Welcome, restless souls, to Carmen's Crypt. I'm Carmen Carrion, keeper of forgotten tales and curator of nightmares. You've wandered into my domain, where each week I unearth a fresh horror from the depths of human imagination. In these darkened halls, stories wait like hungry shadows. Each tale we've collected whispers of terrors both ancient and new. From crumbling mansions where something skitters behind the walls, to that strange text message you received at 3 a.m. from a number that shouldn't exist. So gather close. The candles are lit, the shadows grow long, and the witching hour is upon us. Are you prepared to face what lurks in the darkest recesses of Carmen's Crypt? Lock your doors, still your nerves, and remember, here, every fear comes alive. This is Carmen's Crypt. Your sanctuary of scares awaits. Janet Thompson glanced at her watch for the fourth time in 10 minutes, her other hand gripping her fork like a weapon. Across the dining table, her mother-in-law deliberately, painfully deliberately, served another spoonful of mashed potatoes onto her plate. "Mom, please," Dan said softly, catching Janet's eye. "You've already had seconds." "Well, someone should enjoy this meal I spent all day preparing." His mother's words dripped with a kind of passive-aggressive sweetness that made Janet's teeth ache. "Since some of us seem to be in such a rush to leave." Kylee slumped deeper into her chair, thumbs moving rapidly over her phone beneath the tablecloth. At 15, she had perfected the art of looking mortified by her entire family's existence. "Can we not do this again?" Janet checked her watch. 11:12 p.m. They needed to leave in 8 minutes to get a decent spot in line. The MegaMart Black Friday ad lay next to her plate, its pages worn from constant review. A 65-inch smart TV for $299. Line starts at midnight. Limited quantities available. "The turkey's barely settled," Grandma Thompson continued, spooning more gravy onto her fresh helping of potatoes. "In my day, we spent holidays being thankful for what we had, not running out to buy more things we don't need." "The deals are only good for the first hour," Janet explained, for what felt like the 100th time. "And we need a new TV. Ours is ancient." "It's 5 years old," Dan muttered, but he was already starting to clear his plate. Good man. The autumn wind rattled the dining room windows, and the last maple leaf finally fell from the tree outside, its shadow dancing across the lace tablecloth like a tiny waving hand. Janet felt a strange flutter in her stomach. Not anticipation, but something closer to dread. She pushed it away. "Kylee, coat on. Dan, did you get the camp chairs from the garage?" "They're in the car," he sighed, "along with the thermoses, protein bars, and your printout of the store layout." Grandma Thompson's fork clattered against her plate. "You've got a store layout? Janet, honey, don't you think this is getting a bit—" "Thanks for dinner, Mom," Dan interrupted, standing up. "We'll be back for leftovers tomorrow." Janet was already shrugging into her coat, her mind racing through her carefully constructed plan. Get in line by 11:30. Use the side entrance. Everyone always forgot about the side entrance. Head straight for electronics. Do not get distracted by the clothing deals. The car's headlights cut through the unusually thick fog as they pulled out of the driveway. In the rearview mirror, Janet watched Grandma Thompson standing in the warm light of the doorway, shaking her head. For a moment, the old woman's expression seemed less disappointed than afraid. "You know," Kylee said from the back seat, finally looking up from her phone, "this whole thing feels weird this year. Like, weirder than usual." "It'll be fine," Janet said firmly, gripping the steering wheel. "Trust me. I'm a Black Friday pro." She didn't notice that her breath wasn't fogging in the cold car, but everyone else's was. The MegaMart parking lot was already packed, a sea of cars stretching into the darkness. Janet pulled into a spot near the back, killing the engine but leaving the heater running. Through the windshield, She could make out the crowd gathered at the store's entrance, at least 200 people, standing in perfect lines. Too perfect. "That's different," Dan said, leaning forward. "Usually it's more like a mob scene." Janet checked her watch again. 11:37 p.m. "They must have better crowd control this year. Come on, let's get in line." As they stepped out of the car, the cold hit them like a physical force. November in Michigan was never warm, but this felt different. A bone-deep chill that seemed to seep up from the asphalt itself. Kylee wrapped her arms around herself, her phone temporarily forgotten. "Mom, these people are creeping me out," she whispered as they approached the back of the line. "Look at them. They're not moving." Janet had to admit it was strange. No one was talking, or checking their phones, or shuffling to stay warm. They just stood. Even their clothes seemed oddly muted, as if all color had been leached out of the fabrics. A security guard passed by, his uniform an odd shade of gray. His skin had the same pallid tone, and when he smiled at them, his teeth looked slightly too sharp.
"Happy shopping,"
he said, his voice like gravel on ice. "Thanks," Dan muttered. "Hey, honey, maybe we should—" "No," Janet cut him off. "We're not leaving. Do you know how long I've waited for this TV? Our timing is perfect. We're near the front of the side entrance line, and— Oh my God!" Kylee interrupted, grabbing her mother's arm. "Mom, look at that lady's jacket." Two people ahead of them, a woman in a puffy winter coat, swayed slightly. The back of her jacket had a dark stain that looked black in the dim parking lot lights. As Janet watched, a drop fell from the hem, hitting the pavement with a sound that was somehow audible despite the distance. "It's just cranberry sauce," Janet said automatically, but her voice wavered. "You know how Thanksgiving dinner can get messy." "When have you ever spilled cranberry sauce down your back?" Dan asked quietly. Before Janet could answer, a low hum began emanating from the store's speaker system. The crowd straightened in unison, their movements mechanical and precise. The security guard passed by again, still smiling that too sharp smile.
2 minutes to midnight, folks,"
he announced.
"Remember our doorbuster policy. All sales are final. No returns. No exchanges. No survivors. No substitutions."
Janet felt Kylie's hand slip into hers, something they hadn't done since her daughter was small. Dan moved closer, putting himself slightly in front of them both. "Mom," Kylie's voice was barely a whisper. "I can see everyone's breath except theirs." The hum from the speakers grew louder, and the crowd began to move forward with perfect synchronization. The automatic doors slid open with a hiss that sounded almost like a hungry sigh. "Welcome to MegaMart," the PA system announced. "Let the savings begin." The doors opened, and the crowd moved like a wave. Not the chaotic surge Janet expected, but a synchronized flow that looked almost choreographed. For a moment, she stayed frozen, still processing Kylie's observation about the breath in the cold air. Then she felt the press of bodies behind them, moving forward with inexorable force. "Stay together!" Dan shouted, but his voice sounded muffled, as if the air itself was absorbing the sound. He reached for Janet's hand, but a cluster of shoppers slid between them with fluid precision, their movements too smooth, too coordinated. "Dan!" Janet called out, but the crowd had already swept them apart. She tightened her grip on Kylie's hand, pulling her daughter close as they were pushed through the entrance. Something was wrong with the store's lighting. The usual fluorescent glare had been replaced by a sickly green glow that made everyone's skin look like cottage cheese left too long in the fridge. The regular shopping carts had been replaced by sleek black ones that seemed to absorb the light rather than reflect it. A woman fell in front of them, her body hitting the tile with a wet thud. Janet instinctively moved to help, but stopped when the woman's head turned much further than a neck should allow, and revealed a face with eyes like empty coins. The woman stood up with a series of sharp cracks, joints realigning themselves, and continued walking as if nothing had happened. "Mom," Kylee whimpered, "where are all the normal people?" Janet scanned the crowd, really looking now. Every face had that same waxy pallor, every movement that same unnatural grace. Were they the only regular shoppers here? The only ones who still had color in their cheeks, fog in their breath? The PA system crackled. "Attention shoppers. Tonight's doorbusters can be found in electronics, housewares, and human resources. Please proceed in an orderly fashion to your final destination. Your final shopping destination, that is." The announcement ended with what sounded disturbingly like a giggle. "We need to find Dad," Kylee said, pulling out her phone. Her face, lit by the screen, went pale. "Mom, there's no signal. And look at this." She held up the phone's camera, pointing it at the crowd. The screen showed only blurs where the other shoppers should be, their forms distorted like heat waves over hot pavement. A security guard appeared beside them, moving without sound despite his heavy boots.
No photography allowed during the harvest, during holiday sales,
he said, his smile revealing teeth that definitely hadn't been that sharp earlier.
I'll need to confiscate that.
Janet pulled Kylee backward, away from his reaching hand. "We're fine, thanks," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Just looking for my husband."
Oh, he's in electronics,
the guard said, his smile widening impossibly further.
They all end up in electronics. The deals are irresistible.
They backed away, turning to run, but the crowd had closed around them like a tide. Through gaps in the bodies, Janet caught glimpses of the electronics section. The TV displays were showing security footage of previous Black Fridays, but not the kind that made the evening news. In grainy black and white, she watched shoppers transform, their humanity draining away like marked-down prices. "Kylee," she whispered, "I think I made a terrible mistake." The electronics department loomed ahead like a cave mouth, illuminated by the otherworldly glow of 50 television screens. Each one displayed a different Black Friday from years past, the footage growing progressively darker as the dates went further back. Janet watched in horror as a clip from 2019 showed a woman clutching a discounted laptop transform before her eyes, her movements becoming fluid, inhuman. "We need to get out of here," Janet whispered, but Kylee was already shaking her head. "We can't leave without Dad." Her daughter's voice cracked. "Look!" Through the forest of screens, they could see Dan being herded toward the customer service desk by 3 gray-skinned employees. Their name tags had years instead of names. 1985, 1992, 2001. "Welcome to our rewards program," one was saying, her voice carrying unnaturally across the space. "The points are drawn from your life force, but think of the savings." Janet pulled Kylee behind a display of smart speakers, her mind racing. The exits would be blocked. They always were during doorbusters, but she'd never considered the sinister implications until now. Her years of Black Friday shopping had trained her to navigate store layouts, to find the quickest routes to the best deals. Now she needed those skills to save her family. "The emergency exit," she breathed. "Through the stockroom. There's always one by the loading dock." A customer shuffled past their hiding spot, arms laden with electronics. As they watched, his skin began to gray, starting at his fingertips where they touched the purchases. His movements grew more mechanical with each step. "The items!" Kylee gasped. Mom, it's the discounted items. They're what changes people. Janet's hand flew to her mouth. All those years of doorbuster sales, handling the heavy discounted merchandise, how had she never fully transformed? Then she remembered her habit of immediately giving most items away as gifts, never keeping the best deals for herself. My bargain hunting obsession actually saved me, she murmured. I never kept anything long enough to—
Well, well,
a voice interrupted.
the Thompson family, our most valued customers.
The store manager stood before them, but not as Janet remembered him. His suit wasn't just the color of old pennies. It was made of compressed copper coins, each one stamped with the face of a former customer. His smile stretched too wide, revealing not just filed teeth, but an entire checkout scanner where his throat should be, complete with a softly pulsing red beam.
Mrs. Thompson,
He said, his voice emerging as a mix of barcode beeps and cash register chimes.
our most profitable customer. Do you know how many souls you've brought us over the years? Your gift-giving habit has been quite the recruitment tool. Every discounted item you've given away has brought us new inventory.
He gestured at the gray-skinned shoppers.
Black Friday isn't about the deals, Janet. It's about the conversion rate.
His name tag flickered like a digital display, cycling through years. 1863, 1914, 1929, 1945, 2008. Every major economic crash when people were most desperate for deals.
Humans created us, you know. Every time someone said they'd sell their soul for a bargain, we grew stronger. Now we're the ultimate corporate entity. We literally own our employees. Mrs. Thompson, your dedication to our sales has been inspiring. Year after year, rushing through family dinner, camping out in our parking lot, spreading word of our deals. You've brought us so many new customers.
He gestured at the transformed shoppers around them.
Our inventory, you might say.
Where's my husband? Janet demanded, surprising herself with her steady voice.
Oh, he's just completing his loyalty card application. It's quite a commitment.
The manager's laugh sounded like coins in a garbage disposal.
But I'm afraid we'll need the whole family to sign up. Store policy, you understand.
Behind him, Janet could see Dan struggling with the gray-skinned employees, fighting as they tried to force him to touch something that looked less like a credit card application and more like an ancient contract written in rust-colored ink. Mom, Kylee whispered, whatever we're going to do, we need to do it now. Janet surveyed the electronics department with new eyes, seeing it not as a treasure trove of deals, but as a battlefield. Years of Black Friday shopping had taught her to analyze store layouts strategically. Now those skills might save their lives. The employee break room, she whispered to Kylee. It's behind that door marked Associates Only. If we can get there, we might find something to help your father. They crept between the aisles, using the towers of discounted tablets as cover. The transformed shoppers moved in predictable patterns, like NPCs in one of Kylie's video games. Janet timed their movements, leading her daughter through gaps in their artificial patterns. The break room door was unlocked, strange for a store during a major sale. Inside, flickering fluorescent lights revealed walls covered in employee photos, dating back decades. Janet's breath caught as she noticed the same faces appearing year after year, gradually losing color until they matched the gray-skinned creatures outside. Mom, look at this. Kylee pointed at an ancient CRT television in the corner, still running security footage. But unlike the sanitized clips playing on the sales floor, these showed the full transformation process. Janet watched in horror as happy shoppers from previous years grabbed their doorbuster items, their humanity draining away with each discounted purchase. A yellowed ledger lay open beside the TV, its pages filled with careful columns of numbers and names. But these weren't sales figures. They were dates of employment, each starting on a Black Friday. In the margins, someone had scrawled mathematical formulas that made Janet's eyes hurt. Human soul plus markup equals infinite labor. The earliest entry was from 1863, when the first owner discovered that desperate people would trade anything for a bargain, even their humanity. Below that, in precise copperplate handwriting, the profit margin feeds on flesh. They've been doing this for over 150 years, Janet breathed, converting shoppers into inventory. But why didn't you change? Kylee asked. All those Black Fridays. Because she never kept the cursed items, a voice rasped behind them. They spun to find a janitor, his skin still showing patches of natural color. The transformation only completes if you keep the purchases. Your mother's habit of giving everything away as gifts saved her, and cursed countless others. He shuffled forward, leaning on his mop. I've been watching for years, trying to warn people. But the store, it knows. It's why they promote the items as perfect gifts, spreading the curse while keeping the gifter human enough to return next year. A scream cut through the air. Dan's voice. They're starting the loyalty program initiation, the janitor said urgently. Once they make him sign the contract in his own blood, ink, he'll be fully converted. But there's a way to stop it. He reached into his cart and pulled out an ancient price gun. This is from the store's opening day. The old magic is still in it. If you can mark them with the original prices, it breaks the discount curse. Janet grabbed the price gun, its weight reassuring in her hand. How do we get close enough? The ventilation ducts, he said, pointing to a grate above them. They run right over the customer service desk. But hurry, when the clock strikes 1, the transformation becomes permanent. Janet checked her watch. 12:45 a.m., 15 minutes to save her husband and escape this retail nightmare. Mom, Kylee said, her face set with determination as she pulled out her phone. I have an idea. These things hate being photographed, right? Janet smiled grimly, hefting the price gun. Let's go do some marked down damage control. The ventilation duct creaked under their weight as Janet and Kylee crawled toward the customer service desk. Below them, Dan was strapped to a chair made of shopping cart parts, while the manager waved what looked like a rewards card carved from ancient bone. Flash mob, Kylee whispered, and before Janet could stop her, she kicked out the ventilation grate and dropped down, phone held high. The LED flash strobed brilliantly, but this time, it did more than startle the gray-skinned employees. It revealed their price tags. Every transformed shopper had one hanging from their soul, showing their markdown from human to inventory. Janet raised the price gun with trembling hands. This wasn't just about restoring original prices. It was about restoring original humanity. She pulled the trigger, and the label that shot out wasn't just a price tag. It was a receipt of existence, itemizing everything that made a person human. Original value, 1 life, including first kiss, favorite song, mom's cookie recipe, that summer at the lake, dreams, hope, love. The tag hit the manager square in his scanner throat, and the beam turned from red to green. Transaction void flashed across his chest. His coin suit began to unravel, pennies raining down as his corporate form rejected the humanity being forced back into the system. You can't process this return, he glitched, his voice distorting between beeps and screams. The warranty on humanity has expired. Yeah? Janet said, firing more tags. Well, I've got a lifetime guarantee on motherhood, and I'm not letting you liquidate my family. Each price tag she fired contained a different human moment. First bicycle ride, graduation day, wedding vows, baby's first steps. The transformed shoppers they hit began to glow, their gray skin cracking to reveal not just humanity, but their most precious memories shining through. Kylie's phone camera caught it all, its flash turning each moment into a burst of pure light. The manager's form began to pixelate, his body breaking down into raw data. "System failure!" he shrieked. "Catastrophic markdown error! Humanity levels exceeding profitable perimeters!" With a sound like every cash register on Earth opening at once, he exploded into a cloud of expired coupons and reward cards. The blast of air that followed smelled not just like electronics and pretzels, but like summer barbecues, Christmas mornings, first dates, all the moments that make up a human life. Janet dropped behind her daughter, price gun raised. "The price you're asking is too high." She pulled the trigger, and a label shot out, hitting the manager square in the chest. The tag read, "Original price, 1 human soul." The manager's corporate smile melted into a snarl as his true form emerged, a creature of receipt paper and barcode ink, scanners for eyes and card readers for teeth. "You cannot deny these savings," he howled. "The doorbusters must have their sacrifice." "Yeah? Well, I'd like to make a return." Janet fired the price gun again and again. Each original price tag that landed caused another employee to transform back to human. Bewildered shoppers blinking in confusion as decades of retail servitude melted away. Kylie's phone flashed continuously, the camera's light creating a strobe effect that kept the remaining creatures at bay, while Janet freed Dan. The manager lunged for them, but Janet had spent 20 years practicing her Black Friday defensive maneuvers. She ducked, rolled, and came up firing her final price tag, right into his name badge. The effect was immediate. The manager's form distorted, his body collapsing into a pile of expired coupons and clearance signs. A wind that smelled like new electronics and food court pretzels whirled through the store, pulling the darkness out of the corrupted shoppers and up through the ceiling. The fluorescent lights flickered back to normal, revealing a store full of dazed but human customers. As they rushed for the exit, Janet saw the janitor one last time. He smiled, gave her a salute with his mop, and faded away like an old receipt left in the sun. Outside, the sun was rising. Their watches showed 6 a.m., though they'd swear only an hour had passed. Police cars surrounded the building, responding to what they'd later call a mass retail hysteria event. Kylie's video would go viral, but nobody would quite believe it wasn't an elaborate marketing stunt. 1 year later, Janet's still extreme coupons, but now she checks each barcode for hidden symbols, each sell price for supernatural markdowns. She's started a secret online forum for other retail survivors who've noticed something wrong with certain stores' deals. They share tips, how to spot a cursed bargain, which sales are too good to be true, how to test if a Black Friday deal wants your money or your soul. When the mall announced its new tenant, Janet didn't just read the store's name. She ran it through a cryptogram, counted its letters, checked its incorporation date. Luxury Lifestyle Boutique had exactly 30 pieces of silver hidden in its marketing budget. She's ready this time. Her price gun is loaded with specially blessed barcodes, and Kylie's phone has been modified to detect inhuman employee movements. Dan's even learned to read the fine print in 11-dimensional languages. After all, the best deals aren't about saving money. And so, dear listeners, we emerge from another dark corner of Carmen's crypt. And Janet Thompson, but remember, always the horrors you've heard tonight are merely echoes of the terrors that await in the shadows of your own mind. If you enjoyed your stay in the crypt, why not invite a friend to join us next week? After all, fear is best when shared. Leave a review if you dare, or share your own tales of terror on my social media. Who knows, your nightmares might just become my next story. Until next time, keep checking under your bed, and remember, in Carmen's crypt, every fear comes alive and no one is truly safe. Sweet dreams, if you can still sleep at all.